Let's jump right into this explainer and unpack one of the absolute coolest yet most foundational concepts in all of physics. We're talking about the invisible forces that literally govern everything around us. Right now, whether you're just chilling in a chair or watching a massive spacecraft tear through the atmosphere, these rules are constantly running in the background. It's a concept you've probably heard a million times, but today we're going to break it down so you can truly visualize how the whole shebang operates. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. It's a beautifully simple sentence, right? But we're going to dissect exactly what those words mean, piece by piece. Because, it's one thing to just memorize a phrase for a test, but it is an entirely different thing to actually grasp the mind-bending mechanics hiding right there inside of it. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, to move from abstract theory to tangible reality, we really need to investigate how these forces interact in three completely different environments. We learn best by visualizing, so let's take this classic law of motion out of the textbook and throw it into the real world. Part 1, Static Forces and the Wall. Imagine a kid physically pushing against a giant, immovable wall. What's really wild here is the dynamic happening right in front of us. You've got the child exerting all this effort, pushing forward. We call that push the action. But here is the kicker. Even though that wall doesn't budge a single inch, it is actively exerting a reaction force right back onto the kid. The wall isn't just passively sitting there taking it. From a physics standpoint, the atoms in that solid concrete are pushing back with the exact same amount of force the child is applying. It is a perfect invisible stalemate. Let's move on to part 2, dynamic forces with rockets and swimmers. Okay, let's escalate the energy of it, going from stationary resistance to massive mechanical thrust. If we look at a rocket launching into space, we can clearly trace how the violent downward action of the flames and gases is directly responsible for that majestic upward lift of the rocket. It's just a brilliant visualization of the law in a super high-energy environment. Those engines, they aren't pushing off the ground. No, they're violently expelling gases downward. That massive downward push is our action. And because of our rule, there has to be an equal and opposite reaction, right? So the expelled gases push back up on the rocket, sending it hurtling into the sky. The downward force of the fire perfectly mirrors the upward force applied to the spacecraft. Now, let's look at a totally different medium, water. In a swimming pool, you have to physically push the water backward with animated force to propel your own body forward. Your hands cup the water and drive it behind you. That is the action. So what's the equal and opposite reaction? The water pushes you forward. You literally cannot move forward in a pool without throwing water backward. It's the exact same fundamental principle that just launched our rocket, just scaled down and applied to human muscles and fluid dynamics. Which brings us to part 3, the 3 final rules. Whether we're looking at the static wall, the soaring rocket, or the gliding swimmer, they all perfectly obey the same underlying mechanics. And this illustrates the ultimate unbending rules of action and reaction forces. There are 3 key takeaways you really need to lock in here. First, these forces are always equal in magnitude, meaning the size or strength of the push is exactly the same. Second, they are opposite in direction. If one goes down, the other goes up. Forward, backward, you get the idea. And third, and honestly, this is the one people miss all the time, they act on different objects. The kid pushes the wall pushes the kid. The rocket pushes the gas pushes the rocket. They are paired forces interacting across 2 entirely distinct things. If you picture all 3 of these examples side by side, you can almost visualize glowing arrows connecting them, highlighting those equal and opposite forces at play: the child and the wall, the rocket and the gases, the swimmer and the water. Despite being totally different scenarios, one static, one explosive, one fluid, those glowing arrows in our minds show us that the invisible math governing them is entirely identical. Action and reaction, perfectly, beautifully balanced. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to look around your room right now and wonder, what unseen equal and opposite forces are silently interacting with you at this very moment? When you stand up from your chair, what are your feet pushing against and what is pushing back? Think about the sheer scale of this. Every single time you take a step forward, you are technically pushing the Earth backward, and the massive Earth is pushing you forward. The entire universe is constantly engaged in this incredible push and pull. So, keep those glowing arrows in your mind's eye as you go about your day.